Good morning. Make sure that you turned in the homework from last night. Your notes today for titling is scatter plots and lines of best fit. All right, so what do we have here? Scatter plots have different correlations. We have negative correlations, meaning they have a negative slope. And the correlation just means that all the points are very close together or they're very far apart. So strong correlation means all of our points that have been plotted are very close, very tight together. Versus a weak correlation right here, a weak correlation means that yes, you can see that it's going in a negative direction, but they're more spread out. No correlation means it's just random points wherever. You can't figure out if there's a negative or a positive slope. Weak positive correlation means most of the points are right here. They're going in a positive direction, but they're pretty spread out. Versus a strong correlation, you can definitely tell that that is a very strong positive slope. Everything is nice and tight and close together. So, to create a scatter plot, step one, you're going to create a scatter plot. You're going to plot all of the ordered pairs. And since these are all word problems, you will need to label your x and y axis. Labeling meaning whatever we're talking about in the problem, and you will need a title. Now, sometimes it will be difficult for you to figure out what the title should be for your graphs. And if in that case, you may put down any title relating at all to what it's talking about, whether it's days of the week versus money or whatever. But you need a title. So title and labels. Each one of those is worth 1 point on your test. Step two is you need to then draw the line of best fit. This is where you are going to take a line and it's going to go in correlation with your point. So it'll be either positive or negative. Maybe it's a horizontal line or a vertical line because that's the way the points you plotted says it should go. Normally that's on some kind of a diagonal along up the middle of your points. Not cutting the points in half, but more in the same direction. Step three is to select 2 points on your line. They need not be points you actually plotted. Sometimes you'll have to use a point that, because of the way the gridding works and where your line lines up, that's the point you pick. And last but not least, in step four, you're going to write equation for that line. And you've got notes on this from all week. We've worked on this all last week, was writing those equations. So here's a problem. The table shows the median home prices in Florida. Now this is years and years ago, okay? And ultimately what it says here is we have to, one, we have to graph them. Two, we then need to write what is the equation of the trend line. Trend line is just a fancy word for line of best fit, and you can see that it says that right here, line of best fit, or trend line. So we're going to write the equation, and then we're going to use that equation, and then it's not us, it should say use. Use the equation to predict the median home price in 2020. So step one, I was given this block of data right here, and I had to graph it. So what I did was I made 1994 represent 0 on the x-axis, and then 1950 is 10, 1960 is 20, 1970 is 30, 1980 is 40, 1990 is 50, and 2000 is 60 on the graph. And that one on the x-axis. Notice down here, I did label it. On the y-axis, it is the prices. It's the median price. So I did that on my y-axis. I went up by 20 thousandths. I then plotted each one of the points, as you can see. And the other thing I did not do is that I didn't actually physically write or type a title. What I would have used for my title, let me erase my line up here. What I would have used for my title is right here with the title of this table. So what I would have done is this, I would have rewritten this. It's just I don't have enough space, so I did not rewrite it. All right, so here I go. I have this wonderful points, and somehow I need to get a line going up the middle of these like this. We don't want to cut them in half going this way. I want to cut them in half going this way. So when I can, and it doesn't always happen, but when I can use, if I see that I have plotted a point on the y-axis, which means it's my y-intercept, if I can use that point to get myself a line going up the middle of this, I'm going to use it because then it's one less thing I have to do in the end. So I'm going to take my line here, I'm going to start it right here on my red dot, and I'm going to see if I can get myself a line up the middle of these that's fairly equal number of dots. Above is below with about same distance. And we're going to go right there. You will make sure that you remember to put an arrow on your line because you don't want to lose a half point. The reason this is a fairly acceptable graph line is because I have 3 points above, 2 below, and the 2 below are pretty far below. So it's pretty decent line. I would accept it. Every one of you, when you draw this line, would probably come up with one slightly different. This is when we get out those student IDs to make these lines. If you notice, I'm going to use this as one of my points. So this is 0, 23,100. And then I need to find another point. Well, I didn't go through this one, so I can't use it. I go along my line, I go along. I could use this point right here, which would be 30, and it would be 70,000. Or I could use this point up here, which is 50 and 40,100. I'm going to go ahead and use this. The whole reason I'm using it is because it went through right here. It went through on, let's use yellow, went through this intersection right there. So that's why I'm able to use it. So next step, I'm going to find my slope. So m equals, so I'm going to take 70,000 minus 23,100. And then I'm going to take 30 years minus 0 years. So when I do this, you all can get out your own calculator, or you can just wait and watch me. When I do this, I get 73,000 minus 23,100, and I come up with this equals 49,900 over 30. Because this is a word problem, we're going to go ahead and divide that and get ourselves a decimal of 1,663.33, which we know would be 1/3. All right, based on that, I can write the equation of my line. Because I know, and this doesn't always happen, but because this is my y-intercept right here, I'm allowed to go y equals mx plus b, and I already know m is 1,663.33, so that's x, plus b, which we know to be 23,100. So this right here is my trend line equation, or my line of best fit equation. Then it went on and said, use the equation to predict the median home value in 2020. Well, if 2000 was 60, 2010 would be 70, which means 2020 would be 80. So I'm going to use 80, and I'm going to plug that in for x. So this becomes y equals 1663.33 times 80 plus 23,100. So 1663.33 times 80 plus 23,100 is, so y equals, and this is money, $156,166.40. Now, ladies and gentlemen, how do I know that that's old? Because my house, my little bitty tiny house in Kirkwood, cost more than that. And so in Florida, we know housing prices much higher than here in St. Louis. So old data, but that is how you find these. You plug them in. So first thing you do is you lay out your table, you plot your points. Let me take that back. You lay out your graph by labeling it, entitling it. You plot your points. Don't forget to number those graphs as well. plot your points, draw your line, and then you will take and you will do any plugging in if you need to, but don't forget to write your equations. All right, I am finished with notes, so you now have an assignment, and I will see you all on Wednesday.